Hello, everyone, and welcome to a new show that's going to be once a week or so, and it's going to be me talking about the state of our beloved Tottenham Hotspur. So, how are we all feeling about the season so far? Ups and downs, as most seasons are. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to talk quickly about the last game in Europe. I won't even attempt to pronounce the team, the Hungarian champions, as Dermo called them in the watch along, which I agree with. That's the best way to describe them. Thoughts on the game? I did expect us to win, with all due respect to the league. And if you think about most likely the cost of one of our players, like Solanke, for example, even though we only played 5 or 10 minutes, costs more than their entire team. So you do have to put stuff like that into perspective. But you can only beat in front of you. So looking back at the game, I was happy to see Mikey Moore and Lancashire start. I think Lancashire, as I think Philip Brady said in the live chat, I think he trying a little bit too hard. I think he did okay, but I think Mikey Moore was a more impressive. See what I did there? The more impressive of the two. And I can see why we have rejected some bids, apparently in the sum up to 40 million, I believe, which is kind of crazy. But I guess that's the prices you pay nowadays for young players with a lot of potential. So I was happy to see that he started him, and Timo Werner, even though he's incredibly frustrating player, should have be good enough to beat the Hungarian champions again, with all due respect. So the lineup that Ange made, I kind of agreed with most of it. Me and Dermo did do a show a couple of days before, and it more or less ended up being the lineup we suggested. Of course, Draguzin was obviously not available for the match. He obviously would have played, so we had to play maybe our top line defenders more than I thought we probably would have wanted to. And speaking of which, very quickly, I do wonder how Jed Spence might be feeling not being in that team, but Ben Davies. It's a baffling decision, really. I'm not sure why Ange made it. The only thing I can think of is that Davies can cover centre half, but we saw Archie Gray playing at centre half, so maybe Davies could have been left out for Spence. What did you guys think? Let me know in the comments regarding that game. And we do have Brighton away coming up. But before I talk about Brighton, I want to give a little bit of a kind of where I'm at with Ange, because a lot of people have been calling people flip-flops, and I certainly am not one of them. I generally will stick with stuff for a much longer period than I think a lot of people will. I don't seem to react that much on a game-to-game basis. It doesn't mean that I can't. It doesn't mean that I can't get emotional sometimes, especially if we're getting destroyed. Or if we're wiping the floor with someone, I can relate to it, but generally I kind of take a longer term view. So with Ange, he's a year and a half nearly into the project, and I've always said that I think most managers should be given 3 minutes. 3 minutes, yeah, okay. 3 years is a decent time frame, I think, in today's football anyway, to build your team, both in the transfer market and also the mentality wise, trying to get the team to play how you want them to play and really put your stamp in the team. It's not something you can really do in a year, not really. So I think 3 years for me is a sweet spot, unless it's an absolute disaster, which Ange is not going to be an absolute disaster. I see no evidence of him being an absolute disaster. But I also don't agree with guys like Dermo, who I've said before that I am envious sometimes of him being able to kind of have that optimism, which I just don't have in me, because it's been worn down by Daniel Levy and the way he runs our club, because that's all I've ever known. So I haven't got other things to really draw upon. All I've got is the way he runs his club, which I don't particularly agree with, especially on the football terms. So I generally don't get carried away. I don't see anyone particularly as the Messiah. And I'll be honest, I don't think Ange is the quality of the manager that Jose Mourinho is, or that Antonio Conte is. Jose Mourinho, for me, even though you can say that his football might not be the best, for me, he's one of the best managers that's ever lived. I'm afraid he is, and it's not just because he had money. Yeah, at Chelsea, yeah, sure, he did have a lot of money to spend, but this is a man who took Porto, who we saw in action last night against United, who got them winning the Champions League. So you're not a mug if you can do that. So, and there is a part of me that wished that we would have backed Jose with the kind of money and freedom that Ange seems to be getting. But it is what it is. It's done now. But my point is that I don't see Ange as this big messiah. I certainly don't think he's beyond critique. And sometimes if you do criticize him, you're called negative. I'm kind of used to being called negative just because I don't really believe there's like a messiah. I don't believe there's anyone messiah. I think Ange seems to be a decent manager, but I've not seen anything from him that suggests to me that he's anything that amazing either. So the jury's still out for me. Do I think we'll get top four? We could sneak into fourth. We're there with maybe 3 or 4 other teams. So I'm not saying it can't happen, but I also wouldn't say we're favourites. But you know, so it's just how I look at football. We've all got our own way to look at it, but Ange has not proven to me that he's the special one, so to speak. He's doing kind of what I expected him to do. I think he overperformed a little bit last year. But when I look at the games, at least in the Premiership, and I look at the games, I think we're more or less exactly where I expected to be points-wise. Because I didn't expect us to beat United. So that, for me, is the shock so far for me. I actually thought United were going to be a much better team than it looks like they're ending up being. So I would have expected mostly a draw. So we're 2 points up. But also, I would have expected us to have beaten Leicester, for example. So in that one, we're 2 points down. So actually, points-wise, if I were to go back to the start of the season, would be exactly kind of where I would have expected us to be points-wise. So that says to me that he's doing okay. So when I've said in the chat, like I give him like a C+, that is what I kind of think is that's okay. He's doing all right. That's all right. You can give him a B maybe, but I'm not flip-flopping on it. And also, it's the same thing when it comes to a lot of players. I didn't really want Solanke. He's performing better than I expected. But I won't sit here and say that I'm convinced or anything, not after a couple of games. You have to give it time. People got no patience nowadays, you know? You have to give everything. Everybody and everything deserves time. Every player deserves time. Every manager deserves time. I'm happy to see Johnson doing well, though, just very quickly. Even though I don't think he's an amazing player, I am happy to see him shut, especially the people who had to go at him on social media, because I don't understand that stuff at all. You know, he is still a human being. Yes, he gets paid a lot of money to do what he does, but he's still a human being. So you don't need to be harassing him. And I like the story that he closed down his social media, give everybody the finger and said, there you go, proof on the pitch. And you know what? That's what he's done. So more power to him. I hope it continues. But you could say it's a little bit unfortunate or sad that in order to get him to do that, he had to be abused online. It's like, really? So is that how we motivate players now, is it? Anyway, I will talk about the Brighton game quickly. We're away to Brighton. I'm expecting probably a draw. The lineup, I think the back five will be what it is, barring injuries. Who do you put in the midfield? See, I want us to be playing a proper number 6. I don't think Bentancur is that, but he has been doing a good job. So I think you stay with what's been working. And the surprise of the season has been Kulu in the pivot, because we don't expect him to be playing that far back. I mean, I can understand why Ange's done it, because he is quite a physical player and he doesn't mind the physical part of the game. He seems to actually quite enjoy it, and he always has. He's always had that about him, and he's always done pretty good defensive work. So I'll give Ange, like I say, I give Ange credit when he does stuff that I agree with, and when he does stuff I don't, I'll say that I don't agree with it. I think Ange has made a good decision putting Kulu there. He certainly surprised me. I don't know if that was ever the plan. Like, if you'd have asked Ange, was that the plan from the start of the season with keeping Kulu? I don't think that's probably what he had in mind, but obviously he's put him in there, and he's done really well. So I think the midfield three kind of picks itself. One of the things that could be a negative with Kulu in there is that it looks to me that Sarr is dropping down the pecking order. And obviously, because he's a young player at 19, I think he is now 19 or 20. I don't know how good sign that is. I'm not saying he should be sold, anything like that. And I do think we should keep him for the year. But if he is going to get pushed out of the team or getting less and less game time, is there a loan in his future? I wonder if there is, because you've got a lot of competition now in the midfield. Because Kulu obviously is playing now in the pivot. He's not playing behind the striker, and he's not really playing on the wing. So, of course, he can still play there, but he's doing a job in the pivot at the middle. So I just wonder maybe if Sarr just seems to be not getting the time he was, and I'd be a little concerned about his growth. That's the negative side, I think, of that. But as for Brighton, yeah, I think we'll line up more or less as expected. I don't think there's going to be any shocking. I don't know if Son's fit or not. If Son's fit, I think you do play Son. I think you play Son and Johnson. I think Johnson obviously is certainly in a very, very good. Especially his shooting's gotten a lot better, kind of out of nowhere. And I wonder if he's, like I say, he got fed up of being slagged off online, and he's probably gone and spent a whole weekend just practicing his finishing. And I think Ange has played a role in that. I think Ange obviously defended him in the media, and it's maybe galvanized Johnson to maybe improve his game, do some extra work. It probably shouldn't be that way. And I would say, well, why did it take that to get that extra motivation out of him? Hate can be a powerful motivator. Getting that chip on your shoulder, so to speak, it can be a very, very powerful motivator, proving people wrong and then giving them the finger afterwards. I mean, he didn't give them the finger. He did the shush thing, but I bet you he wanted to give them the finger. But fair play to him. But as for Brighton, I'm predicting probably, I think it's going to be a draw. A draw or 2-1. It's going to be another close game. I don't see us keeping another clean sheet. It's just something we rarely do. Even we let in a goal even at the end of the Europa League match. Of course we did. I'm not expecting any massive changes. Solanke up front. I don't know if he's going to end up getting the 19 goals. He may do, but I think he's bringing a lot more to the team than just goals. And that's where you have to look at other stats. I think we did overpay for him, but that doesn't mean I consider him a total flop. And I already think he's better than Richarlison. So maybe that just says how bad I think Richarlison is. Because I think I don't know why I think we overpaid by double. I think he's 25 million max for Richarlison. I couldn't believe it when we signed him. But I didn't think he was injury prone. So that's made the whole thing even worse. So Solanke already is significantly, at least I can see why we've bought him. I never really fully understood why we bought Richarlison. I think it was just people said, oh, we can play on the wing as well. Well, he doesn't play particularly well on the wing either. So, but yeah, 2-1 win for Brighton. And the lineup, I think, will be excluding the injuries. I think Sonny, if he's able to play, he'll play. If not, it's probably going to have to be Timo. I'd like to see more start. I mean, why not? Why not go for it? I don't really see the point in playing Timo over more. It's so anti everything I think of. You're playing a guy who we're probably not going to have next year, who's getting paid way too much money, and doesn't particularly deserve it, and is hindering the progress of the young player. He probably is going to care a lot more, and he's going to be with us much longer term. So I'd just throw more in. I would. If the worst comes to the worst, you can sub him at half time. So I play Moore and I play Johnson, I think. And if Sonny can't make it, if Sonny's in there, then you start Sonny and you start Johnson with Solanke up front. And then the midfield writes itself. I think you've got Maddison, Kulu, and Bentancur, which seems to be the go-to right now. And then you've got Romero, Van de Ven, obviously, and Doggy on the left. If he's able to play, I'm not sure he is. And that could be an issue. Who do we play there then if he's going to be out? Don't say Ben Davies. Just no. Just no. We should have got a left back in the transfer window. I think we all know it. We should have got a left back, and we didn't. So maybe Spence gets some minutes because he needs some minutes to Spence. So maybe Spence goes in there as well. And on the right side, obviously, you've got my man Porro, who's becoming my favourite Spurs player. I must say, I've started to really like him. And Vicario, who I think is doing a good job. And there's been talk about, do we need a backup keeper? Forster's not good enough. I quite like Forster as a backup. I think he does a great job as being a backup, which means he doesn't complain. He sits there and he comes on when needed. But he doesn't exactly instill confidence. Then again, does any backup keeper really instill confidence? If they're a quality keeper, would they accept the role as backup? That's the thing I've always thought to myself. Like, you're not going to get a great second keeper, really, because they're not going to stay on the bench. They're not going to sign up for it. Look at Galini. I mean, we got him, and he was gone after a year because he wasn't going to handle being a backup. So, anyway, yeah, I think that's it from me. 2-1 or 1-1. It's a difficult one. And yeah, so this is the first of these little kind of just me rambling about Spurs stuff. Let me know what you think. I know a lot of people don't agree with me because I'm more on the Levy outside. But that's fine. I don't mind being that at all. Like, the idea for the channel, guys, is to try to be a balanced channel. And if everyone's all Ange in all the time and everyone's all Levy in all the time, then that's not a balanced channel. So if it's my role to bring the other side of that, then I'm fine with it. If that's it, I'm not even particularly Ange out. I'm just not jumping the gun, thinking he's the Messiah. It takes a lot to win me over. Right or wrongly, it does. But once you win me over, then I'll be incredibly loyal. But it takes a while just to win me over. So yeah, I think I've gone on for way too long. It's meant to be 5 minutes. It's been 15. Yeah, thanks again, guys, and I'll sign out with my normal. Okay, here we go. Got to prepare the voice for it, right? Quiz. Lovely.